So business is a battle and it is a war that you need to fight. Every single day you decide, I am going to take on my competition. I'm going to take on the algorithm. I'm going to do whatever I need to do to try to make my business a success. Unfortunately for T. Shanley, one of the main things that was basically helping you win decided to fire himself 2 years ago. And that was me. I walked away from this business in terms of promotional strength 2 years ago because my ego got in the way of the big picture. And this is not an easy video for me to talk about, but today I'm going to talk a little bit about it because I feel like there is probably a business lesson in it. At the end of the video, I am going to talk about some of your business questions. If you guys have a business question, down below, start it with question and ask it. Each week I try to basically tackle some of the questions from the previous week. And this previous video, we had some great comments and questions. And so I'm going to get to them in a minute. Right now, before I go any further, I want to give you guys a deal. All right, because it's been a minute since I promoted this product, I want to give you guys a crazy deal. 40% off whichever T. Shanley system you want to grab. You're also going to get a free Pete and Pedro sea salt spray. Because I own both of these businesses, I can do crazy deals like this. Basically, it's my way of saying thank you for being a supporter of this channel, but also basically trying to get you to try our products because, like I said, it's a fucking war out there. And right now, we are battling all the copycats, all the brands, all the companies out there that are basically competing for your face in our category. And so I'm not going to sit here on the sidelines anymore and take a back seat. I want you, not like it would be cool if, no, I want you to try T. Shanley today. Do not wait. All right, it's very important. It's also going to help us as a brand and a company get to that next level, which is important, which I'm going to talk about even later in the video. But bottom line is this. If you want to grab this deal, guys, I would love it. Thank you so much. It means the world to us. I am back. I made a mistake, and I'm here to try to rectify and justify the mistake. But honestly, there's no justification. I'm just going to tell you why, if I'm being honest, because I am being honest. So if you missed the video that I did talking about T. Shanley and why I walked away, I'm going to link to that video down below. It goes into a lot of the backstory of how we started, how we met, and where we went, right? Today, what I want to talk about is why my ego got in the way and why I chose to basically fire myself, all right? So the one thing you need to understand is business, it is war. It is a battle. Every day you are battling for customers. You are battling for survival. And the past 2 years, it has been the most brutal, if we're saying or using a war analogy, it has been the most brutal battle ever. All right? In the old days, you could make some mistakes and it would be okay. Now it has gotten cutthroat. It has gotten devastatingly challenging and hard in order to basically make the same money that you were before. Business is down all over the board in terms of e-commerce, in terms of direct-to-consumer brands. Everybody is having the same issues. Traffic is super expensive in terms of when you market or advertise. That's basically your way of driving traffic to your brand, your website, or Amazon, or wherever you're selling it, right? It's gotten hard. It's gotten expensive. Amazon has gotten harder. It's gotten more expensive. And the competition is fucking fierce. And everybody is trying to basically win at this game. And over the years, there have been winners, right? There have been companies that have sold in the skincare space for hundreds of millions of dollars. Dollar Shave Club, not exactly, the same type of business, but they were amazing in terms of what they did. They were a personal care brand that sold for like $1 billion, right? And when we started this brand and this company, it was never to be a lifestyle brand or business like Pete and Pedro. Pete and Pedro, I'm never going to sell, all right? Basically, it makes me great money. If I'm doing $10 million in sales, I'm doing 20% margin. If I can stick $2 million in my pocket because I own this 100% every year, that's awesome. Combine that with making sure that all my employees and the people that help me do what I do, they also are seeing the benefit and the rewards of us doing great things. Well, I never plan on selling this brand or business. T. Shanley It was started with the express intent to basically at someday be valuable enough to another brand or a company, or basically, somebody that could take us and then take us to the moon, right? We talked last week about Max and the sour strip situation. Similar thing. We wanted to bring it to here, and then we wanted a brand to basically be like, you know what? You've done some great things. You've done the legwork, and we're going to take you to the moon now. We want that. We want to sell this business someday to somebody that can take it to that next level, because we know that we are limited. We have never raised any money for this brand or business, which is different than all these other direct-to-consumer brands. Everybody pretty much is raising private equity, or they start and it's harder and it's more expensive. They don't have enough money to win the war, and so they go to their war chest or investors to get some more cash. And they basically keep this cycle going. Well, the other day I heard that one of our competitors that have recently come into the market, Caldera Labs, who I dislike very, very much, because they are another, in my opinion, Tiege Hanley kind of copycat, but they are everything Tiege Hanley is not. They basically have a silicon tech startup dude who started the business with his celebrity wife, and they use all their celebrity friends. They've raised millions of dollars, and recently they raised another $6 million for, I'm assuming, trying to figure out the same thing that we have spent the last 10 years trying to figure out at Tiege Hanley, and that is, how do you acquire a customer? How do you keep them? And then how do you actually keep them and make them a customer that's going to ultimately end up making you money? Because if your customer acquisition cost is too high and you don't have them long enough, or you're not having a good enough LTV or lifetime value, you lose money. A lot of amazing brands or businesses, Blue Apron is a great example, have come on, they just raise money, but they never figured out that part of the process of converting people at a low enough CPA to make it a viable business. And in today's world, if your business is not profitable, you can't just raise enough money in order to fix this. You've got to do what you need to do from a strategic and corporate standpoint in order to truly have and make a business that is successful. And it boils down to profitability. If you're not profitable, the math just doesn't work. One of the reasons why Tiege Hanley was so successful meteorically, like out of the gate, is that I was the only one promoting it. And I own 30% of the business. And for my equity, I basically was committing to 2 videos per month on my YouTube channel, for 3 years. That meant that my equity was vested at that point. Vesting means that it doesn't matter if I stop or whatever. I have brought my value to the table to receive that equity. All right. Now, if I stopped during that first 3-year period, then I wouldn't get as much equity, all right? Certain amounts of equity vest over certain times. After a year, 2 years, 3 years, all right? So think of it as after year 1, 10%, I was vested. And then after year 2, 20%. And then year 3, 30%. So I was vested. But one of the things that made us so successful was that our customer acquisition cost was basically like zero, because I was the one promoting it. And I did a really great job growing this business to $9 million, all right? But then things started to change. I became less effective, all right? Over the years, my views have tanked. It's, just part of it. And one of the things that we were ultra aware of from the beginning of the journey was that eventually I'm not going to be effective. And so it was a race to figure out, how do we acquire customers? How do we build our business that's going to essentially allow us to keep growing for a reasonable amount of money, or CPA, so that we still had profit? Well, one of the other things you have to realize is that when you start a business, when you have business partners, it literally is like a marriage, all right? And if you're in a marriage or a relationship, you know that you don't always agree, right? Sometimes things happen, or somebody has an opinion or does something, and it's like, I disagree with that. And so, the good news is that we have had an incredible relationship, all right, all of the founders of Tiege Hanley, but it doesn't mean that all of the decisions are, agreed upon. Sometimes decisions are made that other people just don't maybe agree with, but it's going to happen, and you've just got to get on board. And remember, you are a team, and you're in a fight, you're in a battle, you're in a war. Well, for me, not my strongest. I'm stubborn, and I also, unfortunately, a lot of times think that I know I know best and my opinion is right. And I think we all do to some degree. The difference is that, there were over the course of the business, there have been things that or directions or choices or decisions that have been made that I just fundamentally disagreed with. And you have the conversations and you talk it out, or maybe you yell or scream or whatever, but then, this is the way it's going to be and you've just got to suck it up. All right? It's the way that it is, right? You can have disagreements and you've got to understand that it's part of the process. All right? Today, I am closer to my team than I've ever been before. And our CEO, Kelly, has done a phenomenal job. And I couldn't be any happier or luckier to have him basically as our general, right, in this fight. He has done an incredible job. And one of the things that tells me he has done such an amazing job is the fact that we are where we are and we have never raised any outside funding. But about, I would say 2 years ago, there were some things, there were some issues that we were having. And I took some of them personally, which is a very difficult thing when you are in a business and when you have started something or you are part of something. It's hard sometimes to not take things personally. And so as one of the things that I did, I basically, and this is really, it's hard and it's also like embarrassing for me to actually admit this. But I kind of was like, okay, like I'm gonna let you guys handle it, right? I'm not gonna promote anymore. I don't have to promote, right? The views weren't where they were and it wasn't being as effective as before, but I was kind of like, all right, take it. Let's see what we can do without me promoting it. Was I being passive aggressive? Maybe. Was I being immature? Maybe, probably. Was I deciding, as my grandfather would say, and this is the thing that keeps coming back into my mind, you can feed your family or your ego. And I realized that by me not promoting it or talking about my baby and my business that I love, that I believe in, that I started from nothing, I was choosing to allow my ego to take over, and I was not choosing to do what was in the best interest of my brand and my baby and my company. And I also saw what was happening with the competition and the fact that they were raising a bunch of money. They were hiring a bunch of celebrities. They were, wasting money because they didn't know what else to do or how else to build or sustain a business or brand. And I kind of had like a reality check a few weeks ago. And I just started kind of like, the good thing about me is even though I may be like a brat at times and not make the best decision, I am very self-aware and I will look at my actions and think about things later on. Maybe not in the moment. Maybe I'm like upset and whatever. But yeah, I basically fired myself. I gave back my salary, my health insurance, everything. And because at the time we were trying to basically utilize money in order to get us to, better profitability, to get that EBITDA number up. And I knew that, let me just give it back. It made a difference. And so long story short, I basically had this realization that if we ultimately want to win the battle, I need to get back into the game and I have to stop being a little bitch. And so I decided that it's done. I'm done. Like I'm done not promoting or talking about my business or brand, right? If we want to get to the point that we are valuable, that we are successful, that we are, and success to us is not running this business for another 20 years. When we started this, we thought we'd be in and out in like 5 years. We didn't know what we didn't know. We thought that we would raise, and at the beginning, it was looking like we were off to the races. But then, like I said, I became less effective, and then marketing became hard, and then the internet changed. Customer behavior changed. But we have never lost focus of the fact that we do this, and we have built this brand for our customer. And that really ultimately is why I am coming back into kind of the game and the war, is because I don't want you to use somebody else's skincare product. Why the fuck would I let that happen if I could help it? And it's not because I'm greedy, it's because I know what we have built and I believe in this brand, and I don't want you using somebody's overpriced, less effective product that copied Tiege Hanley. When we started this business, we were cutting edge in terms of systems. A lot of people have come, a lot of people have gone, a lot of people have gone out of business, all right, that have copied our model because it was right and it worked and it was what skincare should be. An affordable product for an amazing brand, amazing price, helping you guys be handsome and looking incredible. And when that happens, you feel amazing. It's about confidence. So anyway, I'm back. I'm not going to let these fuckheads, sorry. And here's the other thing you need to understand. I'm not mad that there's competition. You need competition. It's healthy. It's good. All right, I'm a capitalist. Competition is real. But when I get fed ads from my competition, and when I type in Tiege Hanley and I see my competition trying to basically just target us because, you know, we have good brand recognition, and it pisses me off, and I'm just not willing to sit back and just take it. I'm going to build this business to where it needs to get to, and I'm going to basically be a part of it. And so I just wanted to share and talk a little bit about it from the perspective of being like completely transparent and honest. You know, in that first video I didn't talk as much about me like just stepping back because my ego got in the way of things. And, you know, the reason why we became successful in the first place is honesty and transparency. And so I just wanted to come and tell you guys a little bit more like behind the scenes and just a little bit more insight into me and the fact that, you know, even I make mistakes. It's a war, it's a battle. Nobody has a playbook that can basically just say, do this successful. It doesn't work that way. You've got to launch, you've got to figure it out, you got to fuck things up, and you got to keep fighting. All right? This is a war that you're in, and it doesn't end, right? And it's going to be until we end up hopefully becoming successful enough or valuable enough or interesting enough to a brand to be like, you know what? We're ready to take it from here. Let us take it over. All right? That would be an amazing day. And that is something that I've never done, but that was the goal from day one. Anyway, just want to say thank you for being a part of Tiege Hanley. And if you are somebody that is interested in starting your skincare journey, why don't you try it with Tiege? We're more affordable than our competitors. We're more effective than our competitors. And we are better, in my opinion, than everybody else on the market. And right now, 40% off plus a free sea salt spray. Hit that link. It started today. Don't wait, and don't you think about using somebody else. I'm kidding. If you want to, fine. They're more expensive and less effective, but whatever. If that's your thing, that's your thing. Just kidding. But actually, I'm not. Hit the link. Try Tiege. Now, your business questions. The first business question comes from our friend ArtFixFlix 500. He says, how do you move on and ignore? I mean, in success. How do you just move on and ignore? Meaning, like, when you're successful, how do you just, like, not think about it and just be like, yep, deuces, whatever, peace, I'm out? I don't know. I think it gets easier over time. And it depends on who it is that's kind of like saying or doing or acting a certain way towards you. But like I mentioned in the video, you know, surround yourself with better people, less people that are basically going to be judgmental and that have an abundance mindset. This is going to be your best bet. Because when you're surrounded by people that are jealous or just like trying to tear you down, like, why are you spending any time with them or around them? Why are you allowing them access to you? Like, that's my question. Don't. Like, you don't need them. Get rid of them. They suck. Period. Second question comes from our friend, Give It All to Lose It All. He says, if you could set 3 New Year's resolutions for all the small businesses that follow your channel based on your perspective as who's had several successful businesses, what would you set them? Thank you in advice. Last week was incredible. 3 New Year's resolutions for my business or your business. Number 1, focus on profitability. If you're not profitable, nothing else matters, all right? You don't need like profitability. Number 2, really have a good understanding of your inventory, your cost structure, and don't have too much money tied up in inventory, because inventory that's not moving, as we talked about often, is dead dollar bills on the shelf. And so for this new year, try to really find that sweet spot and that balance, because every dollar that's not sitting on that shelf can be in your pocket or used to basically do something else amazing. And the third New Year's resolution is, man, I guess test things. Test more things. Be willing to try things that you don't necessarily know. There's been a lot of changes in our business specifically, and Pete and Pedro is a great example. All right. Last year, we didn't have any idea about selling on TikTok, or we were like, nah, whatever, it's TikTok. And then we're like, wait, maybe we should try selling on TikTok. This year, like profitability wise, like I made like $360,000 extra because I decided to roll the dice. And that's basically since like May or June. All right. And so be willing to try and test different things. You never know when you're going to find a winning ad, a winning platform. And when you do, go for it. But be smart about it. Don't spend too much on customer acquisition costs if you're not profitable or don't understand the LTV. But great question. I love it. All right. We got some more questions down here. All right. Next question is from Michael Ward 89. He says, does retro sell? I'm in the process of working with a private label company on making a 90s theme pet line products, or is it 90s theme line of products too niche? I think it is niche. 90s is a weird like decade. I think retro does sell in certain aspects, like retro like packaging. I think that is kind of like cool. I just wouldn't go too hard on 90s, 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 90s. I think I don't know. It really boils down to your marketing, right? But if you're trying to just go after people that remember the 90s, like your market is smaller, using like a retro, old school kind of like vibe, I think is cool, but it depends on the product. It depends on like what the vibe of your brand and your company is going to be. And I think about like 90s clothing. 90s clothing sucked, right? 80s clothing kind of sucked, right? But there is kind of like a retro feel that you can go with. But I don't know how much you go down that rabbit hole. I just think, make it a cool brand, but really it boils down to marketing. That is going to be the difference that sells it and what doesn't. Does that make sense? I don't know. I like the idea, but it's not going to be the thing that sells it. You've got to have great products and great marketing. But if you can figure out a way to do it, then I am completely wrong. So do it. Next question is, hey Aaron, I'm 30 years old and I'm making good money as a master mechanic, but I would like to take a risk and start a side hustle that could turn into a full-time business. My dilemma is I just don't know what to do or a business to start. Do you have any idea I could look into? So no, I don't have any businesses that you should look into, but you just need to keep your eyes open. When you start, and this is the thing that I find, is that when you start looking at things from a business, could I start, or what could I do, or side hustle perspective, you start looking at the world a little bit differently. If there's something that you see in terms of, oh, there's an opportunity here, or this would be cool, or I would really like this, then start doing your research, doing your math, and figuring out if it is something, and then try it, test it. A great book I would like to recommend that I'm gonna grab for you that I think is awesome is from a friend of mine, Noah Kagan. It is called $1 Million Weekend. This basically allows you, or he talks about the framework in order to come up with an idea and test it literally in a weekend, because one of the things that holds a lot of entrepreneurs back is time, right? Or overcomplicating things, or they spend a ton of time, a ton of energy, a ton of money developing something that they don't even know if there's actually a market for it, and they've never tested their offer. And so this is a great book, but great question, and keep your eyes open. All right, you will eventually find something that you want to try and test, and if you test it and try it and you see positive results, keep doing it. If you decide it's not right, then don't spend too much time, do something else. Keep your eyes open though, but give it enough time if it's something that's interesting in order to try to make it actually work. Because one of the things that happens is like, oh, it was starting to work and you're like, it's not easy anymore because it gets hard. It always gets hard. And then you're like, screw it, I'm going to try something else. And the joke is it's always hard. You just need to figure it out. Anyway, next question. Actually, it looks like this is the last question. If you have a business question, down below, start it with question and ask. From Matt Sebastian Comedy. I'm currently working a full-time 9-to-5 job. I've been pursuing my passion of stand-up comedy, then the URL makes, or the handle makes sense, for about 3 years now and plan to continue to pursue and do it for life. In the meantime, I've started a comedy group that holds comedy show in the area. To my surprise, I recognize that we've been selling tickets at different venues. To my surprise, I recognize that, should I be creating this as an entertainment company, LLC? I definitely love the marketing, finance, and obviously the passion and think it could be something. I just don't know if it's worth making a corporate structure or if it isn't currently unprofitable, if it's currently unprofitable. Thoughts? I think that if you're starting to see like management companies or marketing companies or entertainment companies, here's the deal, you can set up an LLC for you and your business. Like if you're trying to make money doing stand-up comedy and it's like, you could set up a business, all right, an LLC. There's no reason you can't change what you do in that LLC. You'll always have it. And so the thing that I would recommend is I would actually start one. That's what I would recommend because you can always change the name. You can always have it, be Matt Sebastian LLC, right? And then DBA or doing business as whatever you want to call it. Like out the M, right? My LLC is Nice Rack Storage Systems because when I set that up, I was making like racks for like fitness gyms to store like fitness balls and like exercise bands. And so I set it up and I'm like, I'm not doing that anymore. I'm not setting up a new LLC. You can just do a DBA if you want to. But I would do it because, having an LLC, if you are doing something and you're selling tickets and having events and holding events, an LLC does protect you. You also can write off your expenses a lot easier. And so I would definitely say if you are thinking about doing something or starting to do something, absolutely do the legwork now. It doesn't cost a lot of money and it's not that complicated to set up an LLC, and then get a good accountant, right? He's going to help you kind of fine tune things and make sure you don't do anything you shouldn't be doing. Gentlemen, that's where I'm going to wrap things up. Thank you so much for being here. If you've got a question, start it with question down below and ask it. Until next time, remember what my grandfather said, you will either feed your ego or your family, but you can't do both.